This is Lesbian Detectives. I'm Sierra.
And I'm Elizabeth.
And we are here talking about missing and unsolved murders.
We are discussing cases that you have forgotten about or never even heard of.
So sit back, relax, and let's start this podcast. Today's case is the murder of 4 Black women. It has been over 27 years since they murdered, and no one has been charged with the crime. This is the story of the Altidor family. Marie was born in Haiti. She was excited to start her new life in the United States of America. She wanted a new life, and she had so many dreams and goals that she wanted to accomplish. But when she got to America, she faced a lot of challenges. It was hard for her to adjust to her new surroundings. That didn't stop her. She kept going and she never gave up. She finally decided that her new home would be in South Florida. Marie's family and friends describe her as a shy and intelligent young woman. While she was in Florida, she began going to a new church where she would meet the man of her dreams, George Altidor.
Okay.
He was originally from Haiti too, just like Marie. The Marie family described him as someone who took his religion and his school very seriously. George was married before. He and his ex-wife actually had a son together. In September of 1991, the couple divorced. After his divorce, George and Marie began dating. In February of 1994, they got married, and later that year, they welcomed their first child together, a little girl named Samantha. In the summer of 1995, the new family moved to Miramar, Florida, where they purchased a 4-bedroom house. Marie began working as a secretary for the Dade County School Board Information Office, where she helped produce a morning program for the local public radio station. George worked as a plant manager. He was at that job for over a decade. Eventually, George got his real estate license. He began working as a real estate agent part-time. In March of 1997, they welcomed their second child, Sabrina. With George working and Marie at home with 2 small children, her mom, Theresa, who was still living in Haiti, decided to come to Florida for a month to help with her daughter with the newborn and her younger child.
I remember when my mother-in-law, shout out to Deborah, she helped us for 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
Well, mostly you, because I had to go back to work after 2 weeks.
They didn't give you long at your job.
Yeah. And that is another thing that I have a problem with.
Mm-hmm.
The U.S. does not grant you maternity leave, paid maternity leave.
Mm-hmm.
You have to file FMLA. Like, what is that about?
Right. I love Canada. Canada, you get a long time off. I think it's like a year or 2 years. I should have had her in Canada.
I think in Europe, too. It's just the U.S.
Yeah, U.S. On April the 30th, 1997, the morning went as usual. George said that he left around 7 a.m. as he usually did. Marie, Theresa, and the girls, they was all at home after he left. According to family and friends, once at work, George would typically call Marie during the day to check on her and the kids. George said that his first call at home that day around 2 p.m., but no one answered their phone call. An hour later, around 3 p.m., he said he called again, but his wife still did not answer, and he assumed something was going on.
Was he working the night shift?
No, he went in around 7 a.m.
And his first call was at 2?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
When you call me, it's like, what, around 12 o'clock?
Yeah.
It's lunch late. So I want to point out that George was nervous about no one answering the phone call. He assumed that Marie must was busy with the kids, but his mother-in-law was there. So one of them had to answer the phone call.
Yeah.
So he got nervous, so he called his brother-in-law and asked him, hey, can you go check on my wife and kids? Brother-in-law said, okay, I'm going to take my son and we're going to go check on the kids. At around 5 p.m., they arrived at the house, and once they was there, they knocked on the door, but no one answered. It was quiet inside, but they could hear the sound of a TV. So that was kind of weird to the brother-in-law. So that's when George's brother-in-law, his son, actually checking to see if the door was unlocked, and it was unlocked, so they went in.
How old was the son?
It doesn't say.
Oh.
And when they did, they stumbled across a gruesome scene. As they made their way inside, the first thing they noticed was Sabrina bassinet in front of the TV. And when they looked inside, they found the infant body covered in blood.
That was Sabrina?
The youngest one. When they saw the baby in the bassinet, they started to get worried. They quickly discovered the second victim, Theresa, Maria's mother, laying on the floor in the kitchen in a pool of blood. George's brother-in-law said that when he found Theresa, he screamed. He grabbed his son's hand and ran to the neighbor house for help. At 5:24 p.m., a 911 call came in to the police department, reporting that the neighbor had discovered an infant and older woman dead.
Wow. So he didn't even, after he saw those two, he was like, I'm gone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's smart.
I mean, it's kind of scary and kind of like probably will affect him for the rest of his life to see those two dead bodies.
I think after the first one, I would have been like, oh, yeah, I'm out. Like, you don't want to like mess with the evidence or interfere with any evidence.
Because seeing a young baby would, I don't know, it will really break me.
Yeah.
The coroner said that the neighbor did not know how they died, but they knew that they both was dead because there was a pool of blood. When the police arrived at the scene minutes later, they had no idea what they were about to walk into. But the scene on the other side of that door was scarred even the most seasoned investigators for that decade to come.
Wow.
In the living room of the home, still in her bassinet, they found 6 weeks old Sabrina. She had been beaten to death with a blunt force object. In the dining room, they found Marie laying face down in a pool of blood. She had been shot in the chest multiple times, stabbed and then beaten in the head. Theresa was found in the kitchen. She also been shot in the head and also beaten. The last victim was 2-year-old Samantha, who was found beaten to death in the living room. The investigators believe that she was trying to hide between the couch and the chair. This scene was nothing short of shocking.
Wow. So it looks like Marie had it the worst. She was stabbed, beaten, and shot.
She was shot multiple times, stabbed multiple times, beaten a lot of times.
I just don't understand why the babies.
Right.
You know, why the 6-week-old and the 2-year-old?
Like, they can't say what happened.
Yeah, they won't remember.
At all. That's just...
It's a gruesome vengeance. It sounds like vengeance to me.
Blood splattered across the walls and floor, painting a gruesome scene for the violence that occurred. However, as investigators began to examine the scene, they immediately noticed an unusual detail. Nothing inside the home appeared to be out of order. Furniture remained undisturbed, and there was no sign of a struggle. Valuables like jewelry and electronic were untouched, ruling out robbery as a motive. After looking at this, the police believe that it was a crime of passion.
Passion for who?
Police believe that if it's no robbery, it's a crime of passion, that you have to know the person or the person had to know them. Because how Marie died, that was overkill. You shot her multiple times, stab her and beat her. That was an overkill.
Yeah.
Overkill.
Yeah.
Because you did 3 different methods to make sure she was dead.
Right.
The brutal murder of the family left detectives baffled by the scene. The brutal murder of the family, detectives on the scene were baffled by the stark contrast between the horrified violence inflicted on the victims. It was as if the killer had moved through the house without any rush, but also calmness. The lack of disruption indicate the police that the attacker may have been someone that the family has known. Someone who could enter without raising suspicion or forcing their way in. Outside the home in a gated yard, there were a family dog. But according to reports, the dog was friendly and likely may have not barked or been aggressive to any stranger.
The dog had one job.
One job. The investigators were shocked at how the killer got into the home. Did they know the killer? Was this really a burglary? If not, who was the main target?
I believe it was the wife because she's the one that got it the worst.
As the police went around the house, they found something written on the wall. The message said, "I want drug money. They stole my drugs." But after a thorough examination of the crime scene, detectives found no evidence of drugs in the home. Neither Marie or George had a history of using drugs or ever been involved with drugs. So detectives believe that the message was trying to throw them off of the case.
What do they say? You never get high off your own supply. Now, I'm not saying that they did, but it just came to me.
The murders appeared to be personal to the police. It was an overkill. Between 4 victims, there were over 70 stab wounds.
Wow.
Marie and Theresa had been both shot but beaten with a blunt force object, possibly a hammer. Nothing about this scene said a random murder or a robbery. So the police, they turned their attention to George.
George was at work, though, or according to them.
Yeah, he could be at work.
But why would he send somebody to go?
I don't know. Well, I know. I don't know because I wasn't there. Don't know him. But I kind of know the case because I read it and did the research. So it's like I have my theory already. And you're going to see when I say what I'm going to say in the future, you're going to be like, oh, yeah. You're going to be like, yeah, George.
Oh, okay.
Within hours of his family being found murdered, George was brought to the police station to be interviewed by detectives working on the case. According to the Miami Herald, with George who brought in to be interviewed, detectives describe him as calm.
After losing your family, I would be everything but calm.
I couldn't even focus. I had to be sedated because I'm like, I just lost my daughters, my wife, my mother-in-law. Like, no.
Your whole world is taken from you.
Mm-hmm.
I feel. You guys are my world.
Mm-hmm. His response to the questions about the murder by saying things like, quoted and unquoted, it's in God's hands now. God will prevail and Jesus knows.
You know what, though?
Okay.
I've seen some religious people that are like him. Like, they're like, oh, it's in God's hands now. Like, they're okay with everything that happens because they believe that it's God's plan.
Right. Although he was known to be deeply religious, his demeanor in this wake of the unthinkable tragedy just didn't sit well with the detectives. After failing to really answer any of the questions, George then got up and walked off.
He wasn't cooperating, it seems like.
After speaking to George, the detectives began considering him as a person of interest in the murder of his wife, children, and his mother-in-law. His behavior, coupled with the sheer lack of any motivation, led the detective to believe that this murder were committed by someone close to the victim, and George was the most obvious suspect. Theresa's family also began thinking that George might be the person that killed them. They also spoke to hundreds of individuals, including family and friends, to piece together any information that would shed light on this motive of the crime. But despite their efforts and the overwhelming amount of information gathered at the scene, George still remained the main person of interest. George, he said he didn't do it. He said it wasn't him. He was at work. How could he do this?
If he was at work, most likely he was an hourly employee. They would have seen his time punches, punch in, punch out. I wonder if his job verified.
No, I didn't read that anywhere. But they could have.
If they verified that he was at work, then he wouldn't be a suspect. That would clear him.
His behavior, combined with the lack of evidence they have found, continued to fuel the suspicion that he might be the person. After his initial interview, George was asked to come back to the police station. At some point in the investigation, George was asked to take a polygraph test. The results of the polygraph indicate some level of deception, and George responded, which add any more levels to the police that he was the person.
Yeah.
And so without additional information to support they found in detectives, they could not arrest George. According to the detective, George stopped talking to them completely.
He was avoiding them or not cooperating. I guess they can't force you, but it is a little sus when you just... you're not even trying to find out what happened. This was your family.
He probably stopped talking to them because they thought he was the person. Would you keep going back and they think that you're the murderer?
I would try and prove my innocence.
But sometimes you really can't prove your innocence.
At the end of the day, I want to know what happened to my family. And if it wasn't me, I would want to know. If it was me, then I already have that answer. It seems that he already has that closure, or he's putting that on God.
Right. George, he stopped going out. He came out less and less. He even stopped going to church. He took a leave of absence at work. People close to him said that he knew people would start talking and asking questions and wanting to know what was going on. I would too. I'm kind of nosy.
Kind of nosy?
And the days and weeks that followed the murders, detective followed every lead that they had and searched through many, many evidence. They were able to rule out a robbery or a drug-related, but no matter what they did, they couldn't rule out George. They did a handwriting analysis to compare George's handwriting to the handwriting on the wall, but the results wasn't a match. On the morning of the murders, about 7:09 a.m., someone called Maria's uncle from the home. The uncle who was living in Washington, D.C. at the time, he didn't answer the call, but his wife did. However, no one is sure who exactly she spoke to that morning. The wife, who wasn't familiar with Maria's voice, believed it was her, but she couldn't be sure if it was her or not. And once Maria's family learned of this call, they started to suspect that it wasn't actually Maria making that phone call. The phone call was actually 9 minutes after George left the home. George was allegedly to have left for work by that time, where he had arrived to work about 7:30 a.m., which it couldn't be possible for him to make that phone call. But eventually, those leads dried up and no new tips came in. A $15,000 reward was offered for information, but eventually the reward was removed. The reward was actually removed by the donor because no leads came up. The case eventually went completely cold. Family and friends of Marie and Theresa tried to keep this case in the spotlight. They had memorials for the family and reached out to true crime shows in hopes that someone would bring this story to a national audience. They also continued to suspect that George knew more than what he had said. His refusal to corroborate only deepened their suspicions. Eventually, George moved on completely on with his life. A few years later, after his wife and children were killed, he remarried and moved to Oklahoma. Words that he got married shocked the family, who has not been in contact with George in a while. But when they learned who he married, they shock turned to hurt and anger. Apparently, that night before his family was murdered, George had been at a house of a female friend that was familiar to both him and his wife. He claimed that he was there to fix the air condition, but the rumors around town was that George was having an affair with this lady. And also the fact that he ended up marrying her after Marie was murdered brought more suspicion to him. But as of today, George, he remained the only suspect in these murders. He's also free and has never been charged connected to the murder of his wife, daughters, and mother-in-law. It has been over 27 years since Marie, Sabrina, Theresa, Samantha were murdered in their home. I'm hoping and praying that the family get the answers that they need. Let the police department re-look into this case with new eyes. Hopefully, this case will be solved very soon. And that's the case of Maria, Sabrina, Theresa, and Samantha.
Let's get into our theory.
And let's get into our theories. So I want to go first.
No, I want to go first. You always go first.
You go
Before I lose my train of thought.
Okay, go.
I say have the affair, leave your wife. Who cares what anybody says?
Mm-hmm.
The church, whatever. If it's going to make you happy, go for it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that he should have taken his wife, his babies, and his mother-in-law's life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they were going to get over it.
Mm-hmm.
She was going to meet somebody better than him, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
Because somebody that wants to kill you, I think that's the last person that you want in your life.
Mm-hmm.
He should have just... I believe it was him.
Mm-hmm.
When you said that he was over some friend's house...
With his wife now.
With his wife now, yeah, they were building something.
Mm-hmm.
Now... Did she know what was going on?
Who, the wife or the mistress?
The friend.
Yes, she was friends with both of them.
No, I'm saying, did she plan this? Did she help him?
I don't know. We don't know their chain of thoughts. But that was my thing. I don't think he killed them. I think she killed them.
The woman?
The mistress? Because I feel like when he came over that night before, they was making sure everything was planned. They knew that he was going to be the main person.
So you think she was in on it?
She was in. I think she killed them. Because let me tell you something. How Marie was killed, that was vicious.
That was hate.
There was hate. And who would hate her the most? The side piece, right?
Yeah. Because at first I thought that it was his first wife. But, his first wife got over him.
She gone.
She's like, good riddance, I'm sure. And then it makes sense that it would be the mistress.
Because I don't think nobody really looked into where she was. I wonder if the police can go back now, because probably it's a cold case because it's completely cold, and look into her and where she was that day. Because I think about it. The police said that they might have known the killer. If she was friends with them, they would easily let her in. She knew, oh, my man gone. So let me go and kill them. She killed the kids. I feel like she killed the kids because she didn't want those kids in her life. She didn't want to raise somebody else's kids.
But I'm sure Marie would have just given him away. If she... I feel like they should have just came forward. Hey, look, we're having an affair.
But he was a religious man, though.
Who gives a damn? If he was a religious man, he shouldn't have been having an affair with this mistress. The religion is out the door. It's been out the door.
I'm just saying, like, in some people religious, they don't want to leave. And they probably thought he was already a failure because he already got divorced once.
Yeah, but whenever the murders happened, he left church anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So who are you trying to fool?
I mean, he probably didn't want to do child support, play. We don't know why. But I feel like it was the mistress. I feel like she came when he left. The wife knew her. She easily opened the door like, oh, hey, my friend here. What up, girl? Came in. And that's when she probably shot and killed her. And then killed the mother. And then little Sabrina. And then Samantha.
I just don't think one person can take out all of these people at the same time.
Well, if somebody threatening your child life right then and right there, you gonna step back. You're really not gonna fight. If somebody have a gun and say, I'm gonna kill your kids right now, what are you gonna do? You're gonna stand back and you're gonna listen to them, right?
Yeah.
You're not gonna charge too soon. And she could have easily just shot Marie first and then shot the mom and then like, okay, let me kill everybody else first. Because he was gone. They had to make sure he had an alibi. But did we ever look at the woman? I feel like the family might like, oh, they was apart. I feel like they were apart. You can't tell me otherwise.
Do you think that night they were premeditating?
I think he probably went over there and said, this is the time. We have to do this today. I'm tired of this. She's like, okay, baby, I got you. And we don't know what kind of mindset she was on. Because somebody to kill a baby and a child, she probably hate those kids. I feel like the police need to look into her story.
There's a reason why they're really on him. I feel like it was him.
I feel like it was her. Because
or it could have been both.
To me, he made sure his alibi was so tight. Like, and then they said it was a woman that called them. Like, made sure like they called the uncle. What if it was actually her mama calling her uncle, like calling her brother? I don't know if it was her brother or not. But what if the mom was like trying to call for help around that time?
Theresa,
yeah. Because they say they call her uncle. What if the mom was like trying to call her brother like, help, I need help? You know, I don't know, she probably remember.
What did they say that she said?
Well, we don't know. The wife actually answered the phone and she really didn't know who it was or anything like that.
But they didn't say nothing?
Never came out. They kept that kind of hush-hush. It's like a very mystery situation around that phone call. I personally think it was both of their butts because something happened that night. I felt like he probably was getting tired. He probably like, I'm tired of this life. Because it seemed like he just like up, he had some kids, he get married, had some kids and gone to the next thing. Had some kids, gone to the next thing.
I wonder if they interviewed the ex-wife on his behavior because there's signs.
Mm-hmm.
So what was the reason that his first marriage failed? Was it violence?
Mm-mm.
He seemed really controlling, possessive, strict.
Mm-hmm. They say he was.
Yeah, I can imagine. I'm just
putting it out there.
Yeah, like he wanted to be in control.
And I think probably because reading about Marie in her life, it seemed like she was a very independent woman. And I feel like he didn't like that. I feel like he wanted her to kind of bow down to him. But it seemed like she was working, she was getting her money, she was on all that stuff, taking care of the kids. But it seemed like I feel like he wanted more control over her, and she possibly wasn't giving him that control.
I just want to say that whoever did it doesn't know love, because for you to take 2 babies' lives like that, and then you said that one of them, the 2-year-old,
Samantha,
you said Samantha was like trying to hide because she was trying to survive. Like,
she was scared.
These poor babies, like, they died.
What if Samantha really could ID them? That's why they killed her.
A 2-year-old?
I mean, she could have said, they could have asked her, because some 2-year-olds, if she's speaking very well and could communicate, they could have easily asked her, like, who was in the house? Who hurt mommy? She could have either said Miss So-and-so or Daddy.
Yeah, but I know definitely it was somebody that they knew.
Yeah.
Somebody that they let in or had access to the house.
Because she opened the door. And they would have to be very smart because they left nothing.
And then also, why would they do it, though, when the mother-in-law was in town?
I probably was this, because she just had the baby. So I don't know if they was waiting until the baby got older. I don't know why. We don't know. But I don't feel like the mother-in-law was supposed to came around that time. I feel like it was like, hey, Mom, I'm struggling. I'm like, okay, you know what? I got you. Or it probably took a while for her visa to come because she was still in Haiti.
I wonder if there was like a life insurance policy out.
I mean, could have. But usually the life insurance people be solving these cases faster than the police. They were like, nope, because they do not want to give that money away. They were like, nope, they killed them. We're not giving. They be fighting. So I don't know. We both agree that you said it's the husband, right?
I say it's the husband.
I say it's both. I don't know. I feel like it's both. I feel like he probably planned it, put it in the lady's head what to do, how to do it. Because I feel like they couldn't figure out what time. I don't know if they couldn't figure out what time because I looked at a lot of articles, but I couldn't see what time that she was actually murdered, and they never said.
I just wonder why the police didn't look into the mistress.
I wonder too, because the family feel like something's going on because he got up and left. He got his new wife and they gone. But then you know what? The new wife, I'm gonna call it out. You kind of stupid. If you did help him kill those people, how you know he not going for you next?
Exactly. That's saying you lose them how you get them or something. Like that.
So you killed his family and you think like, oh, he's not going to leave you. This is third marriage. Come on now. He's easy like up and gone, up and gone. You're not giving him something he never had before. He had a boy. He got daughters. So it's like, what else do you bring? You just assignment for the day or two. But then he also could be nervous, like, hey, like, I got to keep her around because, you know, she probably knows some things.
No, he doesn't care. She's going to become his next victim.
Yeah.
Something that they disagree on, or if he just feels like it's time to move on, he's going to get rid of her.
Right.
And if she is on it, it's kind of like, who's going to get to who first? What is that Netflix show, You? I don't know. I don't want to do any spoilers, but he meets a girl that's just as crazy or even crazier.
Right.
And they both go at each other trying to
kill the other.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that, but also she could get mad. I don't know if anybody have heard of the story Ken and Barbie. We can't do that case. So it's like a couple, they was like killing and raping girls together. But she went to the police first and got like, you know, a better deal. Like I was snitched.
Immunity.
Like, yeah. And then he got sent to jail. So I was wondering, could one of those do that? Like, hey, like I tell you what happened that day. They have a lot more technology nowadays. So they can do more testing on the DNA, look at the crime scene. I feel like somebody with clearer mind and clearer vision and can really solve this case. Because I feel like they have a suspect, but they need the nail. They need the nail to hammer it. So I feel like they could solve it. They really can if somebody come in and really look hard at the case.
Yeah.
So we're calling you out, police department. Open the case. Let's solve this case and give the family the justice that they need. Because 2 beautiful little babies lost their life. That's the saddest part. I feel like every death that happened that day was sad, but for you to go for a baby, I mean, she wasn't even holding her head up. Like, did you feel anything
the toddler and the baby.
Yeah, but the 6 week, like, you had to be
You're a different kind of breed.
Right. I could never. That's sick and disgusting to me. Getting too angry, guys. Let me calm down. So, got a little mad. Sorry. Gotta bring it back. Well, this was a case. This really was a case.
We would love to hear your thoughts on what cases you would like to hear next. We've actually created a case suggestion that we are going to link in the description below. Let us know which cases you would like to hear next.
We are getting a lot of people asking us to do a case for them. So even the ones that already asked us to do a case, you guys are coming up next. We have a couple more episodes until we hit those episodes. But trust me, I cannot wait to tell you guys' story. Comment, like, subscribe, and follow us on all social medias. Hit that notification bell, and also Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Download our episodes. We love to hear you guys' theory on this case. And this is Lesbian Detectives. I'm Sierra.
And I'm Elizabeth.
And we are signing out. Bye.